What if I told you that John Cena walked back into his own diner, disguised as a stranger, and nobody recognized him? Fork and knife with plate, face screaming in fear. They saw only a tired traveler in a flannel shirt. But what they didn't know is that the man sitting quietly in the corner had once built this place with love, sweat, and his mother's legacy. And within hours, he would uncover secrets that could shatter everything. Backhand index pointing right, a bullied dishwasher named Benji. Backhand index pointing right, a staff divided by cruelty. Backhand index pointing right, and a manager whose greed poisoned the soul of the diner. Stay with me, because what John Cena does next isn't just about saving a restaurant, it's about justice, dignity, and second chances. Sparkles. Push pin if you believe kindness and respect still matter, hit like, share, and subscribe, because this story will change how you see everyday heroes. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Globe showing Europe, Africa. John Cena pushed open the heavy wooden door to his own diner, and not a single soul turned their head in recognition. The warm aroma of roasted garlic mingled with simmering tomatoes, wrapping around him like a memory the moment he stepped inside Ellie's. The brass bell above the door gave its familiar ring, but still, no glance, no whisper, not even a curious look. And that was exactly how John Cena wanted it. He pulled the brim of the old gray cap lower across his forehead, scratched at the uneven scruff he had let grow, and sank further into the faded flannel shirt he hadn't worn since the winter before last. To everyone inside, he was nothing more than a weary traveler looking for a meal. No one here would have connected this weathered figure with John Cena, the man who had once owned and loved this place. Not anymore. Table for one? Asked a young hostess, her bright pink eyeliner clashing against chipped purple nail polish. The small plastic tag on her chest read Riley. Somewhere quiet, John Cena murmured, his voice rasping more than usual, as if time itself had roughened it. Riley motioned toward a booth tucked deep in the corner near the swinging doors to the kitchen. Perfect. From there, John Cena could see the floor, the staff, every detail he needed. He slid into the seat and lifted the laminated menu he himself had once helped design, and memories came crashing into him like a relentless tide. Ellie's was more than a business. It had been a promise, a tribute to his mother, Eleanor. She had taught him how to cook with patience, how to serve with dignity, how to treat every stranger like family. He had built this place with her values etched into every beam, every recipe, every corner. But life had pulled him away. When his father's health collapsed the year before, John Cena had walked away from everything to care for him full-time in Oregon. He had trusted a management firm to keep Ellie's alive. Trusted too much, maybe, especially after the emails began arriving. The first one, just 3 weeks ago, carried no subject line. Only a few heavy words. Mr. Cena, I don't know if you even check this anymore, but Ellie's isn't what it used to be. It's cold now. Not the food, the people. Especially how they treat Benji. You remember him? The dishwasher with the stutter. They bully him, Mr. Cena. They act like he's invisible. If you still care, please do something. More messages had followed, all from different senders, but the tone was the same. One even included a shaky phone video, Benji balancing greasy trays, while 2 waitresses laughed at his back. John Cena had called the regional contact at the management company. The man brushed it off as petty staff drama. Turnover is always high in restaurants, he'd said smoothly. Profits are steady, reviews are solid. Nothing alarming. But numbers could never capture the soul of a place. Benji. John Cena hadn't thought of him in years, but the memory struck sharp. He had hired Benji himself 5 years ago. A gentle, diligent, painfully shy young man who reminded him too much of his own younger brother, Sammy. Same speech delay. Same way of shrinking in public. And Sammy had never made it past 23. That kind of loss left a wound that never fully closed. Maybe that was why Benji had stuck in his heart, why those emails had cut deeper than any balance sheet. A waitress appeared at his booth, breaking his thoughts. Slick blonde ponytail, glossy smile painted on with habit. "Hi there, I'm Claire. Can I get you started?" "Just water," John Cena said, then added firmly, "and the spaghetti with meatballs." Her smile faltered for a flicker of a second. "Sure, but our trout special is excellent tonight." "Spaghetti," John Cena repeated. That dish had been his mother's signature. Her sauce took 5 hours, with oregano steeped in the third, chili flakes at the fourth, and a final tasting that could tell her everything about the heart of the kitchen. Claire's cheerful mask thinned as she turned away toward the kitchen, shoulders stiffening the second she thought no one was watching. John Cena tapped his phone open under the table, quietly starting a voice recorder. His eyes swept the room, the broken tile near the bar, the layer of dust along window frames, the flickering sconce above the hallway. Small things, but to him, they screamed of neglect. A glass of water was dropped onto his table by another waitress, a redhead named Tasha, who didn't even bother to meet his eyes before darting off to laugh with a table of loud businessmen. The warmth Ellie's had once been known for was gone. When his spaghetti arrived, steaming and aromatic, John Cena leaned forward with anticipation and dread. One bite was all it took. The sauce was thinner, acidic, garlic overloaded to cover mistakes. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't Ellie's. Not really. Then he heard it, snickering near the kitchen doors. Claire and Tasha, whispering. The sound wasn't playful, it was sharp, cruel. Can't even say his own name. Took him 30 minutes to clean the grease trap yesterday. Total dead weight. John Cena's jaw tightened, his grip on the fork stiff. He didn't need to guess who they were mocking. And right then, the kitchen doors swung open. Benji shuffled out, shoulders slumped, eyes down, carrying a heavy bin of dishes. Older now, more worn, but still careful, still steady. Claire and Tasha fell silent just long enough to smirk at each other as he passed, then picked up right where they left off. John Cena set down his fork. The food tasted like ash. The emails hadn't exaggerated. Something had changed at Ellie's, and not just the sauce. The soul of the diner was gone. But John Cena hadn't returned to mourn its loss. He had come back to take it back. This was only the beginning. John Cena barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he could hear the echo of Claire and Tasha's cruel laughter, sharp as broken glass, cutting through the silence of his mind. He saw Benji's tired shoulders, his careful hands carrying weight no one else wanted, and that quiet, focused look in his eyes that spoke of years of endurance. The kind of endurance that left scars deeper than anyone could see. John Cena knew enough to understand that something was deeply wrong inside his diner, but he also knew he hadn't yet seen the whole picture. Not enough to confront it. Not enough to fix it. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, John Cena stood in front of the mirror of his hotel room. The flannel shirt was gone. In its place hung a Navy maintenance uniform, with a stitched patch that read Rick. Around his waist, a faded tool belt. He looked less like the man who once built a restaurant from love, and more like a contractor sent to fix someone else's neglect. Perfect. He had already called the management company earlier that morning, pretending to be a local repairman responding to electrical complaints in the kitchen. They hadn't questioned him. Another red flag. Any owner who truly cared would have asked for details. These people didn't care, they were only protecting numbers on a sheet. John Cena walked into Ellie's during the mid-morning lull, clipboard in hand, posture casual. A new hostess was on duty today, and she barely looked up from her phone. "Morning," he said in a low voice. "Just here to check on those flickering lights near the kitchen." "Don't get in the way of prep," she muttered, waving him through without interest. John Cena's jaw tightened, but he kept his head down. Noted. He moved through the dining area slowly, kneeling by outlets, tapping walls, pretending to make inspections while discreetly planting small wireless mics under tables and into corners. They were tiny, no bigger than a thumb drive, but powerful enough to capture everything. To the untrained eye, he was a repairman doing his job. In truth, he was setting the stage for something much bigger. When he finally pushed through the swinging doors into the kitchen, the change in atmosphere hit him like a cold wind. This space used to hum with energy, a careful rhythm of chefs, preppers, and dishwashers moving like a well-tuned orchestra. But now, it felt mechanical. Orders barked without acknowledgement. No laughter, no banter, no spark of pride. Just noise and steam. In the back corner, hunched over a deep industrial sink, stood Benji. His hands were red and raw, submerged in hot water, silverware clinking against porcelain. From a small, beaten-up radio beside him, a faint violin played. Vivaldi, The Four Seasons. John Cena remembered the boy once telling him that classical music helped him stay focused. Even now, even under mistreatment, Benji clung to that ritual. His movements were precise, efficient, gentle, like a craftsman working in silence. John Cena crouched by the outlet behind Benji's station, tools clinking softly as he pretended to adjust wiring. "Need to get behind you real quick," he muttered. Benji startled, stepping aside too quickly. "Oh, that's it." "No problem." He moved with exaggerated caution, giving John Cena more space than he needed, as if bracing himself for a scolding that wasn't coming. Up close, John Cena could see what years of wear had carved into him. Lines etched deeper across his face, a frame thinner than before, and that same limp in his step that was now a shade worse. John Cena didn't correct the wires. He just watched. Stack, rinse, load, dry, repeat. A rhythm born of patience. A quiet dignity. "How long you been here now?" John Cena asked softly. 5 years, Benji replied, eyes fixed on the dishes. "Like it here?" "It's a job." The words cut like a blade. John Cena remembered asking the same question years ago. Back then, Benji's eyes had shone with pride. "Best job I've ever had, sir," he had said. Now it was only survival. A crash interrupted them. A tray of vegetables had slipped from a young cook's hands, scattering across the floor. Before anyone else moved, Benji was there with a broom and dustpan. "Classic Benji," Claire's voice sang out from the doorway. She had just entered with her perfect ponytail. Always cleaning up somebody else's mess. Benji kept his head down, sweeping quickly. "It's fine," he murmured. "See what I mean?" Tasha added as she walked in behind Claire, smirking. "Total doormat." John Cena's grip tightened on the screwdriver in his hand, knuckles pale. He kept his head low, pretending to be absorbed in the light fixture. Let them show their true faces. Let them think he was just a maintenance man. Lunch prep began. Staff filtered in, some focused, others careless. That's when John Cena saw him, the manager, Miles. Button-down shirt pressed, tablet in hand, walking with the kind of arrogance that only comes when no one holds you accountable. Claire glided up to him with a bright, practiced smile. "Hey, Miles, that table's asking if we can swap the soup of the day." "Tell them no substitutions," he muttered, barely looking up. Claire rolled her eyes behind his back as she turned away. "He's useless," she whispered to Tasha. "At least he doesn't micromanage us." Meanwhile, Benji carried a tub of glasses nearly his own size across the kitchen. Slowly, carefully, no one moved to help. "Benji," Claire called sweetly, "these need to be done as a... and the grease trap too. When you're finished." He hesitated only for a second, then nodded. "Yeah, this? I'll get it done." "Good man." Tasha added sarcastically as he turned away. The two of them leaned toward each other, laughing. "Did you see him trip on the mats yesterday?" Claire whispered. "Yeah," Tasha chuckled. "I thought he was going to cry." John Cena nearly dropped his tool. The rage in his chest burned, but he held it back. Not yet. A mop squeaked across the floor. Eddie, the young busboy, passed quietly. He glanced at Claire and Tasha, then muttered just loud enough to be heard, "Helena didn't quit. She got pushed out. She stood up for Benji." Claire spun around. "Nobody asked you." "Just saying," Eddie replied, not meeting her eyes. "You better watch yourself," Tasha sneered. "Unless you want to end up like her." Eddie dropped his gaze and walked away, but he had said enough. John Cena tucked the name into his memory, Elena Lopez. She had been one of his best. Loyal. The fighter. And if she had been pushed out for protecting Benji, then she was the key to understanding just how rotten things had become. John Cena finished his fake inspection and left the diner that afternoon with more than recordings in his pocket. He left with conviction. Elena was still out there. And if she was willing to talk, maybe he wasn't fighting this battle alone. That night, John Cena couldn't stop replaying Eddie's quiet words in his head. Helena didn't quit. She got pushed out. The thought followed him back to his hotel room, sat with him as he stared at the ceiling, and burned in his chest as he opened his laptop. Elena Lopez. Once, she had been the heartbeat of Ellie's when John Cena was stretched too thin. She had run pre-shift huddles like a coach steering a team, remembered birthdays, encouraged the shy, and kept order without crushing spirit. If she had been forced out, then the rot inside Ellie's was deeper than just Claire, Tasha, or even Miles. And John Cena needed answers. By late afternoon the next day, after a few calls and a favor from an old friend, he had a number. He dialed. It rang 5 times, long enough that he almost hung up, before a familiar voice came through, quiet but steady. "Hello." "Elena," John Cena said softly, his throat tightening around the words. "It's me. John Cena." The pause. Then a dry reply. "About time." They chose to meet at a diner 3 towns over, somewhere neutral, somewhere Elena wouldn't be recognized. When she walked in, John Cena almost didn't recognize her himself. Her hair was shorter now, darker too, her clothes plain, jeans and a simple blouse. But what stopped him wasn't her appearance. It was the weight in her eyes. The spark he remembered seeing in every pre-service meeting was dimmed. John Cena stood, joking lightly. "What, no handshake?" She slid into the booth without smiling. "I want to hear why now." John Cena exhaled slowly. "Because I didn't know. The management company sent me glowing reports. Profit steady. Reviews solid. I thought things were fine." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "They didn't send you reports about how your staff was being treated, did they? Or how Benji became their favorite target?" He stared at the chipped coffee cup in front of him. "I trusted the wrong people." "I tried to reach you," Elena continued, folding her hands together. "Your number was changed. They told me you were gone, dealing with family health issues. I was told not to disturb you." "That was true," John Cena admitted quietly. "My father needed me. I never thought Ellie's would collapse like this. I didn't think I had to worry." Her gaze hardened. "Well, Benji got the worst of it. Miles never liked him. Saw him as weak. And when I defended him, suddenly I was written up for things I never did. My schedule was twisted until I couldn't manage. Then one day, I was accused of stealing from the register." John Cena's fists clenched. "That's absurd." "The footage for that day?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Conveniently missing. They gave me a choice, resign quietly or deal with the police. So I walked." John Cena's chest ached. He had been gone, unreachable. And in his absence, the soul of Ellis had been gutted. "I'm not here to make excuses," he said at last, his voice low but firm. "I'm here because I want to make this right." Elena raised an eyebrow. "How?" "I've been back for 2 days in disguise," John Cena confessed. "Recording what I've seen. What I've heard. Hours of audio and more to come." Her eyes narrowed. "A silent audit." "Exactly," he said. "But I can't do this alone. I need someone who knows how things used to run. Someone who knows the staff, the dynamics, the cracks that need to be fixed. I need you, Elena." She leaned back, arms crossed. "I've moved on. I've got another job now." "Temporary consulting," John Cena countered quickly. 2 weeks. Generous pay. And if this works, a recommendation from me that'll carry weight across the industry. If it doesn't, his jaw tightened, then I'll sell the diner. I won't own a place that betrays everything my mother stood for. Her eyes searched his face for a long moment. "You really mean that?" "I do." Elena let out a slow breath, then finally nodded. "What do you need me to do?" For the next hour, they mapped a plan. John Cena would continue in disguise, gathering evidence, while Elena would work remotely, pulling old schedules, pay records, compiling profiles of staff. Together, they would expose not just the obvious bullies, but the entire system that had allowed cruelty to thrive. "I'll tell you now," Elena warned as they wrapped up. "Getting rid of Claire and Tasha won't be enough. Miles is the rot at the root. He let this happen." "He'll be gone too," John Cena replied firmly. "But I won't stop there. The ones who laughed at Benji won't walk away thinking they got away with it." Something stirred in her eyes then, faint, but real. The first flicker of the fire he remembered. "This isn't just about your diner, is it?" John Cena hesitated, then spoke the truth. "My little brother Sammy had a stutter too. People mocked him, broke him, made him feel small. He never made it past 23. I couldn't save him. But maybe I can save Benji." Elena's expression softened. Slowly, she nodded. "Then let's get to work." That night, John Cena returned to his hotel with their plan on paper, and something he hadn't felt in years. Conviction. That night, John Cena sat at the small desk in his hotel room, papers spread before him like puzzle pieces. Elena's notes were sharp, precise, names circled, shifts highlighted, pay discrepancies underlined in red. Every page was another crack in the foundation of Ellie's, and together they painted a picture of a place that had been gutted from the inside out. But papers and recordings weren't enough. There was still one person whose voice he needed to hear before he could act. Benji. This wasn't about ego, and it wasn't about revenge. It was about dignity. And dignity meant asking someone if they wanted to be defended before you fought for them. So that evening, after the dinner rush had quieted, John Cena stood in the shadows of the alley behind Ellie's, near the dumpster where he had seen Benji drag trash bags the night before. The night air was heavy, the hum of a street lamp buzzing above. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. At last, the back door creaked open. Benji emerged, pushing a gray bin, his shoulders hunched from hours of endless labor. His blue shirt clung to him with sweat, collar damp, his face drawn and weary as if he hadn't smiled in months. "Evening," John Cena said softly, stepping forward into the light. Benji flinched, startled. "Sorry, I didn't see you. You're not supposed to." John Cena lifted his hand and pulled off the maintenance cap. His voice gentled. "It's me, Benji. John Cena." For a few seconds, Benji only squinted, his eyes scanning John Cena's face as if he couldn't quite believe it. Then recognition struck. His mouth opened, then closed again. His hands trembled against the rim of the bin. I don't. "I know," John Cena said quietly, steadying his voice. "I've been here. Watching. Listening. I know what they've done to you. For Tasha. Us. The extra shifts, the mockery, all of it." Benji's eyes dropped to the cracked asphalt. You don't have to do anything. I'm used to it." The words landed harder than any insult John Cena had heard all week. Used to it. No one should ever be used to being treated like dirt. "That's exactly why I have to do something," John Cena said firmly. "Because you deserve better. You always have." He told Benji about the recordings. About Elena. About the plan for Friday night. His voice was calm, deliberate, as though each word was a promise. Benji stayed quiet for most of it, his shoulders stiff, his eyes fixed on the ground. Finally, John Cena asked the question that mattered most. "Do you want me to do this publicly? Or privately? Because this isn't about making a scene, it's about giving you back the respect you've earned. If you don't want it done out loud, we'll handle it quietly." For the first time, Benji lifted his head. His eyes, tired as they were, held a glimmer of resolve. He was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Do it," he whispered. "Not just for me. But Carlos, others got hurt too. It's not fair for them either." John Cena's chest tightened. Even now, even broken down by years of cruelty, Benji was thinking about others. That quiet, selfless dignity was exactly why John Cena had returned. "Then it's settled," John Cena said softly. "Friday night, everything changes." The next 3 days blurred together in a haze of disguises, wires, and whispered observations. Monday, John Cena came as a plumber, baggy coveralls, gloves too thick for comfort, clipboard clutched in hand. He roamed the kitchen and bathrooms freely, pretending to inspect water lines while listening to conversations that revealed everything the staff tried to hide from customers. Claire cursing about filling tea bins. Tasha snapping at a new hostess. Miles pacing without noticing a broken prep table no one else dared mention. Tuesday, John Cena returned as a trainee inspector from the health department, shadowing a real inspector he had called in a favor from. The role gave him complete access, and the perfect excuse to ask questions no one could refuse. He watched the kitchen team closely, noting who cared and who simply endured. One of the cooks, Carlos, muttered when Miles wasn't near, "This place used to feel like family." Then he shook his head. "Now it's just a machine." Wednesday, John Cena walked in as an elderly patron. A wig, thick glasses, a cane, and subtle hearing aids that were actually modified recorders. From a stool at the counter, he watched the dinner service unfold. Claire and Tasha turned on their charm for the customers, but every time Benji passed, their eyes rolled, their whispers cut. At one point, Claire deliberately spilled a drink and blamed Benji for bumping her, though he had been 2 feet away. John Cena saw it. The camera above the drink station saw it. He had the proof. Each night, he returned to Elena's apartment. Together, they pieced the puzzle tighter, receipts spread across the table, staff names connected by red lines on a whiteboard. Elena's strategist mind sharpened the picture. "Claire's been skipping clockouts and claiming overtime," she said one night, tapping at highlighted shifts. "And Miles? He's pocketing the difference in vendor orders." John Cena nodded, his jaw set. "We're not just exposing bad apples. We're uprooting the entire tree." Through it all, his eyes never strayed far from Benji. Day after day, the kid arrived first and left last. Never complained. Never asked for help. When Carlos had a panic attack mid-shift on Tuesday, it was Benji who brought him water and sat silently beside him until his breathing slowed. No fanfare. No recognition. Just quiet kindness. But John Cena noticed something else too. Small flickers of resistance. A young hostess who positioned herself between Benji and Tasha during service. Maria, the older hostess, leaving a granola bar at Benji's station during a brutal 10-hour shift. Proof that Ellie's heart wasn't gone, it was only buried under fear. By Wednesday night, they had everything. Recordings, files, testimonies. Enough to bring the truth into the light. You sure about Friday? Elena asked as she packed folders into a bag. It's the busiest service. What if it backfires? That's exactly why Friday, John Cena replied. His voice was steady, eyes unyielding. Maximum exposure. Maximum accountability. Everyone who matters will be there. She studied him, then nodded. All right, then let's light the match. But neither of them knew someone else had been watching all along. Someone collecting their own evidence. Someone whose reasons might not align with theirs. And if John Cena wasn't careful, everything they had built could collapse before Friday even came. Friday arrived faster than John Cena expected. 3 days of disguises, whispered recordings, late-night meetings with Elena, and carefully pieced files had blurred together into one relentless march toward a single night. And now, the moment was here. The reservation had been made under a fabricated name, Harbor and Lane Hospitality Group, a corporate-sounding title designed to impress a manager desperate for prestige. Miles had swallowed the bait whole. He had practically stumbled over himself trying to accommodate what he thought was the biggest opportunity of his career. The entire staff had been instructed to be on their best behavior. Top service, no mistakes, maximum charm, Miles had barked that morning. Claire and Tasha were overheard whispering about who would snag the biggest tips from the wealthy guests. They had no idea the only guest arriving tonight was the man they had mocked, laughed at, and trampled on for months. And this time, he wasn't coming in disguise. John Cena walked into Ellie's just before 7 o'clock, not as the flannel-wrapped stranger or the weary repairman, but as himself. Clean-shaven. Tailored navy suit pressed to perfection. Shoulders squared with the confidence of the man who had once built this place from love and sweat. He didn't skulk or hide. He didn't lower his voice or bow his head. For the first time since his return, John Cena stepped into Ellie's as its true owner. The young host on duty that night didn't recognize him, of course. Reservation for Walker? He asked politely, glancing at the list. John Cena nodded, allowing the alias to stand. That's me. The host led him through the dining room, unaware of the tension walking in his wake, and opened the door to the private room. A long table stretched before him, set for 20 guests. Water glasses filled. Silverware polished to a shine. Fresh flowers arranged neatly in the center, details Miles had orchestrated in his desperate attempt to impress. Claire was assigned to his table. She floated in moments later, smile bright, charm painted on thick. Good evening, sir. I'm Claire. I'll be taking care of your party tonight. Would you like a drink while you wait for the rest of your group? Just water for now, John Cena said evenly, keeping his eyes on the table. They'll be here shortly. She nodded and hurried away, no doubt rushing to text Tasha about the important guest in the back room. John Cena sat alone, letting the silence thicken. Every 10 minutes, Claire returned with a new offer, appetizers, a bread basket, another drink. Each time, John Cena declined, his calm refusal making her nervous smile crack a little more. At 7:45, John Cena leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. Showtime. He stood, walked to the doorway, and called out in a firm voice that carried through the dining room. Claire, would you ask the manager to join me, please? I'd like to speak to the entire staff. Her eyes flickered with confusion. I'm not sure if... It concerns a generous opportunity for Ellie's future, John Cena said, his tone firm, leaving no room for hesitation. Tell Miles it's important. That word, opportunity, was all Claire needed. She hurried off, heels clicking against the floor. Within minutes, Miles strutted in, his trademark half-smile stretched across his face, his arrogance filling the room. "Mr. Walker," he said, clearly oblivious to the irony. "I hear you'd like to speak to the staff." "Yes," John Cena replied, rising to his full height. "Please gather everyone. Kitchen staff included. 5 minutes will do." Miles hesitated, but greed outweighed doubt. Of course. Soon the private dining room filled. Servers lined one side. Line cooks and bussers stood shoulder to shoulder. Hosts clustered near the back. Claire and Tasha lingered together, arms crossed, smirks still clinging faintly to their lips. Benji stood quietly near the wall, hands clasped in front of him, Eddie at his side. And finally, Elena stepped through the doorway, wearing her old manager's badge, her eyes steady, her presence like a shield at John Cena's left. John Cena waited until the murmur of voices faded into silence. Then he spoke, his tone calm but commanding. "Thank you all for coming. I've spent the past week observing the operations at Ellie's very closely." Confusion rippled through the room. Whispers stirred. John Cena let the weight of the words settle before continuing. "In fact," he said slowly, his gaze sweeping the staff, "I've been observing longer than that. Through reports. Through stories. Through the courage of those who chose to speak up when others stayed silent." Then he turned, his eyes locking on Miles. His voice sharpened. "My name is John Cena. And I am the owner of Ellie's." The room froze. Silence so heavy it felt like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Then a few gasps. A stifled cry. Claire's face drained of color. Tasha's smirk collapsed. Miles' grin faltered and slid away. Before anyone could speak, John Cena pulled his phone from his pocket, placed it on the table and pressed play. Claire's voice filled the room. "He can't even say his own name. Takes him forever to clean anything." Tasha's laugh followed, sharp and cruel. "Best part is he never complains. Total doormat." The room went dead still. Faces turned toward Claire and Tasha. Guess. Whispers. More clips followed. Laughter at Benji's expense. Mockery. Orders to dump extra work on him. Miles' voice brushing off safety violations. Mentions of pay being manipulated. One by one, the sins of Ellie's spilled into the room for all to hear. Claire stepped forward, her face pale. "Those were just jokes." "No," John Cena interrupted, his voice slicing through her protest. "They were cruelty. And they were real. And they are over." His gaze snapped to Miles. "You're terminated. Effective immediately. The management company has been informed. Your access ends tonight." Then he turned to Claire and Tasha. "And you two are dismissed. Elena has your final pay and your exit instructions. You'll leave tonight and not return." For a long moment after the firings, the room was silent. Not the kind of silence that weighs like shame, but the silence that comes after a storm has passed, when the air feels lighter and the sky opens up. The staff stared at John Cena, some in disbelief, others in relief, and a few with tears threatening at the corners of their eyes. Claire and Tasha had stormed out, their heels clattering against the tile, their pride crumbling with every step. Miles had lingered for 1 second too long, his eyes full of venom, before he too walked out, keys already stripped from his belt. John Cena's gaze shifted across the faces that remained. Cooks in stained aprons. Bussers with sweat still on their brows. Hosts with tired shoulders. And then at the far end, Benji, small, quiet, still half hidden in the shadows. John Cena motioned him forward. "Come here, Benji." Benji froze, his eyes darting nervously across the room. For a moment, it looked like he might refuse. But then Eddie gave him a small nudge, and slowly, Benji shuffled forward. "This man," John Cena said, his voice strong but thick with emotion, represents everything Ellie's is supposed to stand for. Dedication, dignity, quiet strength that holds a place together even when no one notices. Benji blinked rapidly, his lips parting as if to protest, but John Cena didn't let him. That's why, starting tonight, I'm promoting Benji to kitchen supervisor. The room erupted in gasps, then slowly clapping. Real applause, rising like a tide. Carlos, the old line cook, clapped him on the back. Eddie grinned ear to ear, giving him a thumbs up. Even Maria, the hostess who'd always left granola bars for Benji, had tears in her eyes as she cheered. Benji's chest rose and felt like he'd forgotten how to breathe. His lips trembled. "Thank you," he whispered. And for the first time in years, the word didn't break on his stutter. It came out clear, whole, and strong. John Cena smiled, steadying his voice. "You've earned more than thanks, Benji. You've earned our respect. And that's just the beginning." The air in the room shifted. What had been heavy with fear was now charged with possibility. For the first time in a long time, Ellie's wasn't a place of dread, it was a place of hope. But the night wasn't over. Elena stepped forward, clipboard in hand, her manager's badge glinting in the light. "We're not just making promises tonight. We're making changes." Effective immediately, she began listing them out with precision. A 10% raise across staff. Overtime honored and enforced. Anonymous feedback reinstated. And weekly pre-shift meetings return tomorrow. Murmurs spread, but this time they weren't whispers of fear. They were whispers of relief. Of gratitude. John Cena nodded. "And tomorrow morning, before any shift starts, Ellie's will open at 7 a.m. for staff breakfast. On me. Bagels, eggs, and pancakes, my mother's recipe. Because this diner was never meant to be just a business. It was meant to be a family." Some smiled. Some even laughed, a sound that hadn't filled these walls in too long. But even as hope sparked, John Cena felt the weight of unfinished business. He had removed the obvious rot. He had lifted Benji up. He had restored some dignity. But something in his gut told him this wasn't the end. Because somewhere out there, someone else had been watching. Recording. Waiting. And their motives weren't clear. This wasn't just about cleaning up Ellie's anymore. It was about defending it from shadows that hadn't yet stepped into the light. The next morning, Ellie's felt like a different world. For the first time in months, maybe years, the walls echoed with laughter instead of whispers. Staff trickled in early, the scent of fresh bagels and coffee filling the air. Benji wore a crisp blue button-up, his hair neatly combed, though his hands still fidgeted nervously at his sides. Carlos brought his own hot sauce to the table. Eddie set out chairs like he'd been waiting for this day. Maria hummed quietly as she brewed another pot of coffee. John Cena stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, flipping pancakes on the griddle, his mother's recipe, just the way she used to make them. Golden brown, soft at the center, with that faint vanilla note that carried more memory than flavor. He placed a plate on the table, and for the first time since he returned, he heard real laughter bounce off the diner's walls. Not the forced, nervous kind. The kind that came from relief. From release. From belonging. He cleared his throat, drawing their attention. "I know it's been a hard week. Some of you thought about leaving. Maybe some of you still are. That's okay. All I ask is this, give Ellie's one more chance. Not for me. For each other. For what this place was meant to be." He gestured toward the framed photo on the wall. His mother, Ellie, smiling in her apron, one arm around a much younger John Cena. "This place carries her name. But it only carries meaning because of you." Benji stepped forward then, his voice soft but steady. "This is the first time. I didn't dread coming in." A hush fell. And then, cups raised. "To Benji," someone called. Another echoed it. To Ellie's. John Cena swallowed hard against the lump in his throat. This was what he'd fought for. What his mother had built. What Sammy never had the chance to see. But as the morning light spilled across the diner windows, a chill threaded through John Cena's chest. Because he knew what the others didn't. Somewhere in the shadows, someone else had been watching. He had caught traces, unfamiliar footsteps outside late at night, a voice recorder that wasn't his, papers shuffled in the back office after hours. Someone was gathering their own evidence. Someone with motives unknown. And if he wasn't careful, everything they had rebuilt could be threatened before it had a chance to stand. John Cena looked around the room, at Benji, at Elena scribbling the new schedule, at Eddie laughing with Maria, and he made himself a promise. Whatever shadows lingered, he would face them. Because Ellie's wasn't just a diner anymore. It was a legacy. And legacies deserved to be protected. The next morning, nearly every staff member showed up. Carlos carried in his own hot sauce. Eddie helped set out chairs before anyone asked. Benji, now wearing a crisp new blue shirt, arrived early, already checking the prep lists and quietly directing others with a steadiness no one could ignore. Claire and Tasha were gone. Miles had already dropped off his keys with a courier the night before. For the first time in years, Ellie's felt free. John Cena stood at the counter, coffee mug in hand, watching his team gather around the long table. Paper cups of steaming coffee, bagels spread open, laughter echoing like it hadn't in months. Real laughter. The kind that made the walls feel alive again. He cleared his throat, drawing their attention. Thank you all for showing up. I know it's been a hard week. Some of you thought about leaving. Maybe some of you still are. That's okay. All I ask is this. Give Ellie's one more shot. Not for me, for each other. He gestured to the framed photo on the wall. His mother, Ellie, in her apron, smiling beside a much younger John Cena. This place carries her name. But it only carries meaning because of you. Benji stepped forward unexpectedly, voice soft but caring. This is the first time I didn't dread coming in. The room fell silent, moved by the weight of his words. And then someone raised their cup. To Benji. Another echoed, to Ellie's. Soon, the whole table joined in. Later that day, John Cena stood alone in the kitchen. The air wasn't heavy anymore. Orders flew out with rhythm. Staff met each other's eyes. And at the center of it all stood Benji, calmly organizing the prep station, giving quiet direction with the authority of someone who didn't need to raise his voice to be heard. Elena appeared at the doorway, arms folded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Not bad for 48 hours, she said. You think it'll stick? John Cena glanced across the kitchen. The laughter, the teamwork, the dignity restored, and answered without hesitation. It already has. Because it was never about me. It was about them. They just needed to be reminded of who they are. Elena nodded slowly. So what now? John Cena smiled. Now we run it the right way together. And as he turned to leave, Benji caught his eye. No words needed, just a nod, a knowing, a new beginning. If stories like Benji's mean something to you, if you believe in second chances, in dignity, and in rebuilding things that matter, then don't just scroll past. Subscribe to the channel. Help us share more true stories of justice, heart, and quiet heroes who never stop showing up. Let's keep the light on.